Secular states have this incredible hope and belief in systems, and they don't trust people. They say people are corruptible, people are wicked, people are too infused and destroyed by original sin. Therefore, you can't trust anybody at all. You have to build a system that can solve all these problems. The big thing that I want to say to people about a better type of government is that we have to imagine a type of government that is incarnational, meaning people are ruling, not systems. And the reason I say this is because modern people have this, well, all of the modern nation states have this fixation with the system. And I think it's easy to argue that this comes out of the Enlightenment, with the emphasis on a certain type of knowledge, a certain type of logic, and then building certain kinds of perfect systems. It's kind of in all of these system building people like Newton and Copernicus. They want to model the universe in a certain way. And if we get the model right, then we have power over the universe. That's what Laplace's demon is. That's what we talked about on the Enlightenment episode when we did the first series on secularism. Now, I think that historically, really, this kind of idea, where does this idea come from? We pull the roots up. We say, oh, look at that. It's Calvinism. Calvinism, which believes in total depravity, and Calvinism, which was so influential on New England and the early colonies in the United States. We can't trust people. So you have to make a system. This is disincarnational. This is an anti-Christian way of thinking about things. And the quest for the perfect system is where you get this kind of utopian dream. If we just solve the engineering problem that is society, we're going to fix human sin, which, of course, makes no sense. It's a category error, actually. People say, okay, well, sometimes, there's corruption and people are corrupt. And yeah, that's true, but some logical housekeeping, just because things get corrupt or because a person is corrupt doesn't mean all people are inevitably corrupt. This is the Calvinist element. Is it inevitable that people go wrong? And as an Orthodox Christian, you have to say no, because saints exist. So clearly, there are many counterexamples where someone can be holy enough to govern right because he or she is united to Christ. So why am I saying all this? Because how do we aim at something? What should we be aiming at? Well, I think we should be aiming at incarnational governments so that you can allow good people to do good and to rule well. Because here's the thought experiment. You can imagine somebody being the president who you say, no, I know this guy. He would not abuse his power. He would take this very seriously and try to do the best job he could in sincerity. You can imagine somebody like that because you probably know somebody like that. And if you say, well, power corrupts, so blah, 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 that's an abstraction. I think that's something that we say, that we're trained to say when what I'm asking you is to make a character judgment based on people's character. Like my dad. I know my dad my whole life, as it turns out. And if he was the God Emperor of the earth for a year, I think he would take that extremely seriously because I know him. And he's fundamentally oriented toward the good, and he wants to do his best to do and to be good. So he would take this very seriously. He'd probably, have some amount of anxiety about, oh my God, how do I take this seriously? And so if you can imagine anybody like that in your life, you can imagine that some people would not be corrupted by power because of some inexorable, irresistible original sin or something like that, as understood by something like Calvinism. If you're really concerned that power always corrupts, then you're saying something actually really insane from a Christian perspective, which is that external factors, such as having power, have absolute say over your character. Like you don't have free will. So if you say, well, absolute power corrupts absolutely, that means that if we give any given person absolute power, then he is inevitably corrupted, no amount of personal virtue can prevail over the inherent wickedness of human nature. That's why power is able to corrupt absolutely. Do you see the root of this idea? It's determinism. It's materialism, or both. Because if your material conditions have the final say on who and what you are, then you don't have free will. And if your sort of Calvinist sense of depravity has absolute say over who you are, you have no free will. So as a Christian, you cannot say that power absolutely corrupts. That if we take somebody and we give him enough power, eventually he will be corrupted. Temptation will always eventually win. That's not a Christian belief at all. And so, the Christian belief is the opposite. That no amount of evil can ever stomp out the good. And that goodness will always prevail ultimately over all evil and suffering and corruption. And that evil ontologically is a corruption of the good. It has no being on its own. It's just a parasite or an inversion of what's good. And good is the thing that has ultimate reality. So, in other words, the whole idea that we should be suspicious of giving power to humans because power has some sort of magical ability to have the final say over whether you're a good person or not is Calvinist or materialist, if this would fit with Marx, or both. It's determinism, and it has no regard for the human person. It assumes from the outset that the human person does not have ultimate moral agency, which is not a Christian position, or really any traditional religious position. So, therefore, when we realize this, we should say, oh, well, maybe we should reevaluate the whole idea of incarnational forms of government, where persons have power to express their virtue and to put it into practice, leading the virtue of the people. Maybe virtue has some relationship to governance, and maybe the kinds of people who govern should be the most virtuous, and maybe that's actually achievable instead of some weird abstract pipe dream, the way that modernity wants to make it look like. Something to think about.